Hello students, let us start solving some typical question from GoodSet 2011 board paper. We'll start with the question number 7. To send 10% of main current through a moving coil galvanometer of resistance 99 ohm, the shunt required is dash. So current passing through galvanometer is 10% of the total current, that is 10 by 100 of I equals to 0.1 I, or else we can write as I equals to 10 times of Ig. And the resistance of a galvanometer is 99 ohm. So the shunt required is S. S is Gig upon I minus Ig. G is 99. Keep Ig as Ig only. I as 10 Ig minus I. That will be 99 Ig upon 9. Ig will be cancelled and that will be 11. So shunt required in this condition is 11 on option number B. Next, 10th question. The maximum power dissipated in an external resistance R when connected to a cell of EMF E and internal resistance small r will be dash. Now consider this circuit in which there is a EMF battery having a EMF E, internal resistance R, which is connected to external resistance capital R, current flowing through the circuit as I. So we want to find out maximum power dissipated in the external resistance. The power in external resistance P is I square R, but current flowing through the circuit can be written as per Ohm's law, E upon equivalent resistance of these two connected in series, that is capital R plus small r, the whole square into R. Now I am taking this term in the numerator, so power P equal to E square into bracket R plus small r raised to power minus 2 into R. So for maximum power, derivative of power with respect to external resistance will be 0. So derivative of these two terms, LHS and RHS, with respect to external resistance, so dP by dr equals to EMF of the battery is constant or cell is constant, so taking out E square common, derivative of R plus small r raised to minus 2 into R with respect to PR. Now over here we are applying chain rule, so we'll derive this term by keeping R constant. So R constant, derivative of minus 2 R plus R raised to minus 3 plus, now keeping this term constant and derivative R with respect to dr as 1. So I have taken this positive term first, so 1 upon R plus R raised to square minus 2 R upon R plus small r raised to cube. Now taking R plus small r raised to power cube as common, that will be R plus small r minus 2R. So dP by dr equals to E square upon R plus R the whole cube into R minus R. Now we'll put dP by dr as 0 because we want maximum power. Maximum power will be possible when dP by dr equals to 0. So by putting dP by dr equals to 0, so LHS will be 0, but RHS few terms cannot be 0, that is E cannot be 0, R plus R, that is equivalent resistance, that cannot be 0. So can I say this term must be equal to 0. So R minus small r equals to 0. So R minus R equals to 0. So R equals to capital R. So at this condition power will become maximum. So what must be that maximum power? So this is the equation number 1. We'll substitute this condition small r equals to capital R in equation number 1. So maximum power equals to E square, replacing this small r as capital R, so R plus R 2R, so that will be 2R the whole square into R. So maximum power dissipated through this external resistance is given as E square upon 4 capital R, or else you can also say E square upon 4 small r due to this condition. So dear student, please remember this formula. You can straightforward directly solve many numericals based on this formula also. So in this question, correct option will be D. That was question number 10. Now next, 12. The mass of 3 bars of copper are in the ratio 5:3:1 and their length are in the ratio 1:3:5. The ratio of their electric resistance is this. Now R equals to rho L by A. We'll divide this equation with L because length is given in the data. So equals to rho L square by V. Area into length is volume. Volume can be written as mass upon density. Now for a copper wire, resistivity and density will be constant. So R is directly proportional to L square. So R1 is to R2 is to R3 equal to L1 square upon M is to L2 square upon M2 is to L3 square upon M3. So by substituting all the values, the ratio will be 1 is to 1 by 5 is to 3 by 1 is to 25 by 1. Multiplying 5 with each term, the answer of resistance will be R1 is to R2 is to R3 equal to 1 is to 15 is to 125. Option number C. Now 19th question, it is mentioned that the peak value of an alternating current is 5 ampere. Peak value is 5 ampere and its frequency is 60 Hz. Find its RMS value and time taken to reach peak value of the current starting from 0. So from maximum value, peak value, we want to find out IRMS value. So IRMS is Im by root 2, that is 5 ampere by 1.414, that will be 3.536 ampere. Now in the second part, we want to find out what will be time taken to reach the peak value of current from the 0. That is from this point to this point. That will be 1/4 of the time period, because this will be entire time period t, this will be half time period, and the other half will be t by 4. So time period from the frequency we can find out as t equal to 1 by f equal to 1 by 60. So therefore t by 4 equal to 1 by 60 into 4, that is 1 by 240, which is equals to 0.004166 second, which we can also write 4.167 millisecond. The correct option will be A. Next, 22 number. So in the question it is mentioned then, where should a person standing straight on a pole of a convex mirrors of a focal length 2 meter on its axis so that image form becomes half of its original height. So for a convex mirror, first of all we'll find out the magnification. So magnification is given as hi by ho, which is equals to half, given in the data, and the relation between magnification, focal length and object distance can be also written as m equal to f upon f minus u, magnification plus half. Now plus half indicates virtual image, and as it is mentioned in a convex mirror always forms a virtual image. So plus half equals to plus 2 upon 2 minus 2. Here plus 2 is the focal length of a convex mirror, which is also positive as per sign convention. So plus 2 upon 2 minus f, by cross multiplying 2 minus u equals to 4, so u equals to minus 2 meter. Option number D. Next, question number 24. A transparent plastic bag is filled with air forms a concave lens. Now if this bag is completely immersed in water, then it behaves as a dash. Now dear students, there must be a correction in the question. In the last part they have mentioned that now if this bag is completely immersed in water, that not just the question. In fact, they should tell us that now it is filled with water. Instead of being immersed in water, this transparent plastic bag is filled with water, then which shape or which lens it will behave, that we have to find out. So for an empty plastic bag can be desired shape change, it can be desired shape change temporarily, that is concave lens, which is mentioned in the equation. Now when we fill water in it, it gets bulged out and it attains the shape of convexness, which is also called as converging lens. So 24th question, correct option will be B, but there must be correction in the question that it is filled with water, not immersed in a water. Okay, so next, 25th question. A microscope is focused on an ink mark on the top of a table. If we place a glass slab 3 cm thick on it, how should the microscope move to focus the ink spot again? The refractive index of a glass is 1.5. So we'll find out the apparent height of that ink dot, that is hi by ho equal to eta error by eta denser. To hi equal to ho into 1, eta error is 1 and eta denser is 1.5, so 3 upon 1.5 equals to 2 centimeter. So now the position of that ink dot will shift to 2 centimeter. Initially we are observing that the ink dot with the help of microscope having a with a lens having thickness, or a slab having a thickness 3 centimeter, out of which 2 centimeter we have to move. So now the distance will be 1 centimeter, and as there is a slab, we increase the height of the microscope. So will shift in the upward direction. So correct answer will be 1 centimeter in the upward direction. That is option number C. Now next, 27th question. Given figure shows the arrangement of the lenses. The radius of curvature of all the curved surfaces are same. The ratio of equivalent focal length of the combination PQR is dash. So there are three different figures are given to us PQR, in which there is a plano-convex lens are arranged in a different manners having same radius of curvature. So focal length of a plano-convex lens f is r upon eta minus 1. This formula is derived with the help of a lens maker formula for a plano-convex lens. Now when two plano-convex lenses are arranged to form a equiconvex lens in any of the combination, that is figure PQR, the resultant focal length will be 1 by f equal to 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. Now these two lenses are placed in contact, and in contact the resultant focal length will be added by reciprocal. So 2 by f, that is f dash equals to f by 2. So f dash is r upon 2 into eta minus 1. So all the combination will be having the same focal length. So if you take the ratio, that ratio will turn out to be 1. So their ratio will be 1:1:1. Option number A. Next, 32 number question. The radioactivity of a sample is I1 and a time t1 and I2 at a time t2. If the half-life of the sample is tau half, then the number of nuclei that has been disintegrated in a time t2 minus t1 is proportional to dash. So activity can be defined as I1 equals to lambda n1 and I2 equals to lambda n2. Over here we have neglected the negative sign. So subtracting both these terms, I1 minus I2, taking out lambda common, into n1 minus n2. Now substituting tau half equals to 0.693 by substituting lambda as 0.693 by tau half and making the equation of n1 minus n2. So n1 minus n2 equals to I1 minus I2 into tau half upon 0.693. But 0.693 is a number which is a constant, so we can say that n1 minus n2 is directly proportional to I minus I2 into tau half. So undecayed nuclei or disintegrated nuclei is directly proportional to I1 minus I2 into tau half. Option number D. Thank you.